Welcome to Marketers Talking Marketing.
Welcome to another episode of Marketers Talking. Today we're joined with Colin. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Jess. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. So a week after graduated from college with a criminal justice degree, I started my first business. Of course, I never used my degree. Really, I never took a business marketing or accounting class in college. So it was real trial by fire. That first business I grew and then sold that in 2006. In 2007, I started Monkey Island Ventures with two buddies of mine, Josh and Zach. We've all known each other since we were about 5 years old, and Monkey Island is named after a park that we used to play at when we were kids, located here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Really, for the last 17 years, we've been building a variety of different businesses, and yeah, happy to get into all of that however you'd like.
Yeah, what made you go down the entrepreneurial path after graduation versus going and working in industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's just kind of serendipity, luck that I fell into that. I didn't have a real strong sense for what I wanted to do after college, and the opportunity came up, and I was like, all right, let's try it. I like creating, I like building, I like experimenting. I wouldn't say I'm a huge risk taker, but I'm a risk taker enough to, yeah, I like to try new things and venture.
Yeah, you definitely have to be at least a little bit risk comfortable to start your own company
hmm
instead of going into being employed for someone.
No, that's very true. Luckily, for the first year or two, I was still living at my parents' house, and I could reduce my expenses and kind of learn the ropes as I grew the business. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just, yeah, timing and luck. But at the same time, you have to have a desire, and you also have to have a work ethic to put in the time necessary to grow a business.
Oh, yeah. I talked to quite a few people who will say, I quit my 40-hour week job to launch my own company because I wanted better work-life balance or I wanted to work less. And then they're like, now I work over 40 hours a week. Some have, I think, go the other way, but there's always at least a handful of people who end up working more when they're working for themselves than when they were employed.
Right. And then there's a couple things to that. One is, hopefully you're more motivated to put in work when it's your own thing and you're building something, for yourself, for your family, for your employees. But at the same time, you don't want to overwork yourself to the point at which you're burned out. But there is, a requisite amount of time that you need to put in order to make the thing happen. And it usually happens, success usually takes a lot longer than what you think.
Yeah. Now, your first company was acquired. What made you want to sell?
I just got burned out on the industry. So it was a marketing communications business. We did direct mail, and then we started getting into like email marketing and web design and custom development. And that had just kind of run its course, and I was ready to get out of it. And around that time is when toward the end of that is when, I started catching up again with Josh and Zach. And I was just like, yep, timing is.
So did you go from one business straight into the other one, or did you take a little break in between?
I did. I took 1 week off and I was bored silly. And so then I jumped into the next one. Yeah.
I know there are people listening who feel the same way. Whenever they take time between roles or time off too.
I probably should have taken more time off, but I didn't. So yeah, is what it is.
Yeah, I feel like oftentimes people will say don't start a company with friends or family, but you went that route. I also went that route. I started a company with a friend. Did
Yeah.
you find that I mean, I would assume that it's going well because you're still in business together. So, Ness, did you find that there was any unexpected things you ran into, or was it pretty smooth sailing?
I would say the business relationship side with Josh and Zach has been pretty smooth sailing. I'd say the businesses that we've tried to build has been a lot more difficult. But the positive of that is that I have two of my best friends going through the highs and lows of business. And I would wholeheartedly recommend anyone thinking about going into business, bringing on a partner or two that you can trust, that can go on that journey with you. We created what are called the 5 F's that we kind of live by, which is, finances, freedom, family, friendship, and fun. And so we really just live by those 5 F's. And I was on another podcast, and they said, well, what about fights? That's another F. And we really haven't ever gotten into fights. I think we live by those those 5 F's, and we've always put our relationship ahead of business. And the reality is the vast majority of business decisions you make are not catastrophic. And so it's using your intuition. And, if there is any disagreement, if 2 out of the 3 of us, really want to do something, then the third person has always gone, okay, all right, let's try it. I trust you guys. So it's been great.
The first F was finance, as you said. Is that, can you talk more about what that means?
Yeah. So finance for us really is ensuring that that the business are operating well and profitably, and that we're also benefiting from the efforts of the businesses from a financial perspective. Because, even when I talk about LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a social network and it's about building relationships and it's about spending time on there and doing that. But I still want LinkedIn to be a revenue source for my company. I want to generate leads and revenue off of my efforts on LinkedIn. And I'd say that that's true for any business. Businesses are there to generate revenue and they're there to generate profit. And if you're not doing that, then you might as well be a nonprofit or not be in business. So, that is what I would say around the finance F.
I feel like that's one of those areas that a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're first starting out, have a little more of a struggle or a little more gray area around how to really approach finances and being profitable. Especially, it feels like the tech industry for a long time pushed the idea of fast growth over profitability, or seeing that pendulum swing back.
Right. Yes. Well, and a lot of that is also, taking on like venture capital and taking on investors and things like that, which we have rarely done. Most of the time, we're just bootstrapping it and building it ourselves. And there's something that is also more calming about that process, where if you can start small and you can start generating revenue on a business, and you don't have to be generating crazy revenue or even be super profitable or profitable even in the very, very early days, as long as you're starting to see some signs of traction that, you're getting clients signed on, and maybe you're signing them on for a loss at the beginning, but as long as they stay, X amount of weeks or months, now you're getting into profitable range. It's fine. You can generate, good business in a variety of different ways. But at the end of the day, yes, I think you definitely want to put your life and the lives of your partners and of your employees and all of that ahead of profits.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned LinkedIn a little bit ago. LinkedIn is definitely, I think, still the fastest growing. Actually, side note, LinkedIn was the only social network that was profitable at the time of going public. It's just a random fact with it.
That's great. Yeah, good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. But tell us a little more about what you're currently doing on LinkedIn, where you're finding success.
Yeah, happy to. So, my path to using LinkedIn, I've been using it for 5 to 6 years now. Most of that time was with the different SaaS startups that we've built over the years. I would use LinkedIn and then cold email to try and drive demos and beta signups and whatnot. And I was having good success across both of those methods, but I was getting better, more high quality leads through my efforts on LinkedIn. And so about 6 months ago, I went to Josh and Zach and said, I think I could build a real business off of what I've learned on LinkedIn with my process and automation and whatnot. And they said, all right, go for it. So that's what's kind of spawned Rainmaker. And what I love about the model is the transparency of it. So virtually everything that I talk about with LinkedIn and Rainmaker, people can go and do manually. There's really nothing that I'm doing that requires me or Rainmaker. So I just love talking strategy. When I think about LinkedIn, I think about it kind of in 3 layers. The top layer is your LinkedIn, philosophy. The second layer is audience and audience intent, and then the bottom layer is LinkedIn strategy and campaigns. So when I think about LinkedIn, philosophically, is that you need to be authentic on LinkedIn. That goes without saying, right? Again, it's a social network. It's about people. It's about building relationships. So you have to be authentic to who you are. And I think generally carrying a conversational tone or a relaxed tone is what most people appreciate. Then you also have to be authentic to the brand or the brands that you represent on LinkedIn. The second is going into LinkedIn with an educational mindset. No one wants to be sold on LinkedIn, but I think virtually everyone is willing to be educated on LinkedIn. And the other thing with that then is going into it with a experimentation mindset as well, knowing that you're not going to have everything figured out and that you're going to use the platform to try and figure out what your audience wants and what your offers you're making and whatnot are resonating. But lastly, when it comes to philosophy, and I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I will put the same pressure on anyone that's a founder, a salesperson, or a marketer, which is you need to understand the pain points and barriers that your prospects are trying to overcome. You need to know what they want to be educated on. And the final thing is you have to explicitly know what they want to learn from you. If you can crack that nut, I think any B2B business can generate leads and sales through LinkedIn. So it's about authenticity and being genuine. It's about an educational and experimentation mindset. And finally, it's figuring out what your prospects want to learn from you. That is how I think about LinkedIn philosophically. So then the next area underneath that is around audience. So I'm typically building all my audience and my client audiences through Sales Navigator. And that works really most of the time wonderfully. But one of the things I've been thinking about the last couple of months is how to identify prospects that are further down the purchase path that would have higher intent to potentially want to engage with me or even buy my products or services. And so a couple of ideas that I've been experimenting with and having some success with are number one, LinkedIn events. So if you have a direct competitor that's putting on an event, or maybe there's like an industry organization that's putting on a LinkedIn event, if you go and attend that event, you can see everyone else that's also attending that event. So you could go to these events, attend it, and then say, okay, I know my prospects are here, and I want to pull everybody that is a founder or is a sales executive in Wisconsin or in Minnesota or whatever. But what you're doing is you've identified people that are already showing intent because they're attending an event that has to do with a topic that your company solves for. And so that's one way of kind of mining an audience. Another would be using a person as a proxy. So for example, there's a woman on LinkedIn named Brenda, and she has like 70,000 followers, and she does a really good job of talking about how to use LinkedIn, about your profile and when you should be posting and how to post, things like that. Well, I reached out and connected with her, and so now we're first connections. And then I can go into Sales Navigator and I can select her as my as like a first connection. And then I can say I want to see everyone that's a first connection to her, but is also a second connection to me, that is a founder or a sales executive or a business coach. And so I can actually build audiences from people that my prospects would be following, because these people that I'm targeting are following her because they want to learn how to learn how to use LinkedIn. So they'd be good prospects potentially for Rainmaker. So those are a couple of ways that I've been thinking about, like getting further down into audience intent and what people are doing on LinkedIn, where I can take advantage of that and start filling my first connections and pipeline with people that might be closer to purchasing the services or the products that I offer.
I really like that approach of using someone as a proxy, because it's on the advertising side, your audience makes such a massive difference, and it can be hard to, let's say, upload a list and have a 30% match rate, sometimes as low as that, depending on the data you have. But if you have someone that you're connected to and you can see those people, like that is such a great audience to start going after.
Agreed. Yep. No. Again, I've only been doing this a couple of months, doing some experimentation around it, but it's pretty promising. So that final layer around campaigns and strategies that we're implementing. So one thing I'm doing for myself and all my clients is obviously we're taking those audiences and then we want to build first connections. So we're reaching out to 25 people a day, 125 people a week, Monday through Friday during normal working hours. So 500 people a month. And across myself and my clients, we're getting between like a 15 and a 45% connection rate back. What we'll do is after 30 days, if someone doesn't connect, we'll rescind the invite. And then there's a 3-week period of time in which you can't re-invite them. But then really what we're doing is we're creating these pools of people that we could go back to at a later date and invite them. So again, you can do all of this manually in LinkedIn. You could go into your LinkedIn profile right now and start withdrawing old invites from people that you might want to try re-inviting in the future. The main reason, I think why most people aren't connecting back is they're just, they're not seeing the invite. It's getting pushed down in their alerts, and they're just not doing that. the number one reason why someone will connect is mutual connections. So if geography doesn't matter, then recommend, to start in like a city and a state where you may be living or that you have a lot of existing connections, because then there's a higher likelihood that you'll have mutual connections with the people that you're reaching out to connect with.
When you send that initial connection request, are you including a note with it, or are you just sending an empty one?
Yep. We're just sending an empty one. Yep. I have had one of my clients were experimenting and sending a message, but the problem with that is context. Like, how do you not feel kind of salesy, or how does it not feel kind of canned? And that's hard to do. So, but if you feel like you're going after a discrete audience and you could use, a message, across that audience, great. And if you're doing this all manually and you want to completely personalize every single, outbound message request to connect, you could do that too. It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah. I've heard competing stats on if it's more effective to have even a short note versus like, we have a lot of shared connections, thought we'd benefit from chatting, versus being blank, depending on whose data you're looking at.
Yeah. And again, if you're already going to have, a decent amount of connections, mutual connections, I don't think it really matters. I mean, some people are really particular about who they connect with, but the vast majority of LinkedIn users just aren't that way. So,
are there any experiments that you've ran on LinkedIn that gave you surprising results that you didn't expect?
Well, I would just say generally, I'm surprised at the connection rates my clients are getting. They'll go after certain audiences, and they'll be going across the whole U.S. trying to connect with these people, and they're still in the 20 or 30 percentiles of connection rates. Yeah, so I'm just surprised. And even a good number of my clients are trying to also connect with like founders and owners of businesses, and they connect back to it a pretty high connection rate.
Especially if you compare it to cold outbounding for emails, where 0.5%, 1% is good.
Right. Well, and a cold email too is like you're not really establishing like any type of a connection other than maybe an email thread that you're doing, right? When you have a first connection with someone on LinkedIn, there's a whole bunch of other things that you could do to start engaging with that person. And I could talk about, one way that I think has been really fantastic for me. Right before that, I'll say another kind of foundational campaign type that we use is messaging. So after someone connects back, a lot of times we'll send a message like a day later. And I think you really, again, want to be authentic in how you do it. And I'll use an example. One of my clients owns a law firm, is breaking into the blockchain industry, and is connecting with blockchain founders. And, in his connection message after someone connects back, says, "Hi, Jess. Thanks so much for connecting. I'm really passionate about the blockchain space. I know you are as well. Look forward to seeing your content." So I'm telling people, don't sell. Don't even try and help. Just thank them authentically for the connection and leave it at that. And for him, blockchain founders are passionate about blockchain. So it's not a throwaway line. Like, that really makes a difference because he really knows that industry in and out. So then if someone responds back, then it kind of like kills the rest of the sequence, and then they just carry that conversation on through their LinkedIn inbox. A week later, we'll send another message if they haven't responded. And again, using the same lawyer, he'll say, "Hi, Jess. I find myself more and more writing about the intersection of law and blockchain, and I'm wondering if there's any topics you'd have interest in me writing about." So he also knows, going back to philosophy, he knows that his prospects have a lot of pain when it comes to the U.S. government and the rules and the regulations within the blockchain space. And so he's getting a really great response from that message from these founders saying, "Oh, if you could write about this topic, that'd be great. Or do you have any insight into this law that might potentially be passing?" So what he's doing just through that message about kind of giving of himself and trying to help is that he's establishing relationships with these founders, but then he's also being seen as a thought leader and as an expert just through a couple of LinkedIn messages to his intended audience. So that's the hard work that the founders and salespeople and marketers need to do, is understand kind of the messaging that you need to do in order to create a real connection. Another strategy that's working really well for me, and that some of my clients are starting to do, are LinkedIn live streams.
Oh.
LinkedIn live streams are fantastic. Number one, LinkedIn wants more live streams. And so not a lot of people are doing them. And so you get good promotion just by doing those, and you're really adding a lot of value to the LinkedIn ecosystem. And I'll use kind of an example of kind of what my process looks like, and I'd be happy to send you a one-page PDF after this that documents my entire process that anybody can follow in creating this live stream. About 2 months ago, I created an audience of about 200 business coaches. And then I reached out to all 200 to connect, and about 100 connected back with me. So I had about a 50% conversion rate, which is on the very high end of conversion rates, but that's what it was. And then I created a LinkedIn live stream event on how to learn how to grow your LinkedIn leads, work leads and sales using authentic automation. And then I used the LinkedIn event invite function. And I invited all 100 of these business coaches to my live stream event. And about 22 of the 100 clicked to attend the event. And then the beauty really of LinkedIn events is that when you put out the event and you're putting it out to like a discrete audience, if no one's signing up, then you know that your audience or your topic or both are off. But if you start to get people to click the attend button, then you know that you're getting some traction with your audience and the topic. But the really great thing especially for any B2B business, is that after the live stream is over, I'll follow up with each attendee and I'll say, "Hi, Jess. Thanks so much for registering for the LinkedIn live stream that I led this morning. Not sure if you're able to make it or not, but in case you miss it, here's a link to the recording," and that'll link back to the LinkedIn event. And then I'll say, "If you ever want to chat LinkedIn strategy, feel free to grab some time with me, convenient for you." And then I'll give them my Calendly link. And if you look at what I've just described, going from, identifying an audience, creating a topic, building out the live stream, inviting an audience to attend and getting attendees, is you can follow up with a Calendly link for a one-on-one meeting, and it doesn't feel salesy and it doesn't feel pushy, it doesn't feel spammy or icky in any way, and it's just a wonderful process for starting to fill up your LinkedIn pipeline with real leads. And I've even seen my behavior shift where, 5-6 months ago, I was spending a lot of time posting content on LinkedIn and looking at how many comments and likes I'd get. And I've shifted a decent amount of my time into creating these live streams because I'm getting actual prospects to attend and I'm building relationships with people that could actually buy from me. It doesn't mean that I've stopped my LinkedIn posting, but I've reduced that and I'm using LinkedIn live streams as a different way of engaging prospects that I think is really, really meaningful.
Have you seen your engagement on posts change since you've started doing more LinkedIn lives?
No, not really. No. That's been pretty much the same. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Good question. Yeah.
I like also the CTA that you have because it doesn't feel like a CTA.
Mm-hmm.
You're, especially if someone missed the LinkedIn live, they may want to connect with you and chat more because they weren't able to attend. So it definitely feels more helpful and that you're there to provide value versus trying to sell them something.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that's great about the LinkedIn live stream events is that, it does get saved as a recording. And one of the things that I've seen is that right when I'm done with the live stream, I'll capture my analytics from LinkedIn to see how many people watched and how many minutes were watched in total. And then I'll go back a week later and look at how many minutes are watched and how many people have watched the recording. And so there you kind of have a long tail effect with these LinkedIn live streams where the recordings kind of live forever on those event pages. So it's great.
Do you find there's a typical percentage of additional viewers that come after the live stream itself to watch the replay?
I don't know, like if there's like a percentage per se, but I do know that I rack up minutes. So like those business coaches that I reached out to, I think I had about like 120 minutes watched total on the 30-minute live stream that I did. And then when I went back a week later, I had almost 300 minutes.
Okay.
About another 3 hours of watch time on the recording, from a week from when I had done it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great lift. That's like a fantastic
lift. Right, exactly. And I'm providing education. I'm providing value to people. I'm creating really great impressions. I'm adding to the LinkedIn ecosystem. So yeah, it's
Are there other LinkedIn features or tools that you think people aren't using enough of?
So another method that I think is a nice way of starting to reach out to people would be through like LinkedIn groups. And so I used to use that quite heavily 3 to 5 years ago, but then LinkedIn put a limit where you could only message 10 people a month across all the groups you're in. So it kind of ruined that as a strategy. But I saw a couple months ago that they had lifted that off of their limits page. So I think they're experimenting with that. But I did a test about a month and a half ago where I went into a group that I was in and I just grabbed 50 people from that group that were second and third degree connections of mine. And I messaged them about a live stream that I was doing a week later. And I got, I think, about eight of those people to sign up for my live stream, even though they were second and third degree connections. So it's a way for you to start reaching out to people before they have to be a first connection. Would be through groups. So that would be another.
Yeah, I feel like groups are making a resurgence where they kind of not die down, but I saw them less in my feed for quite a while, and now I'm seeing LinkedIn recommending groups and recommending to post to groups whenever I post a post in general.
Yeah. I think LinkedIn's going to continue to add features and functions into the product. They want to continue to build out the network, and they want to continue to figure out ways of monetizing the platform, obviously. But like you said, LinkedIn is a growing network. So I think 3 people join every second, something like that.
Wow.
Around the world.
Yeah. Well, Colin, thank you so much for joining today and sharing your LinkedIn expertise and advice and your entrepreneurial journey. If people want to connect with you, where do they go?
So the website is rainmakergrows.com, and there's everything is on there. The pricing, the campaigns page, which lists like 12 campaign types that everyone should be thinking of. 11 out of those 12 you could go and do yourself right now. You don't need me or Rainmaker for that. So again, really, Rainmaker just provides a layer of automation. And then find me on LinkedIn, Colin, Colin Hirdman, Hirdman. Only one on there.
We'll put all the links in the show notes below, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.